Jai Hind everyone, I am Dr. Akash from the Department of Applied Science and Humanities at AKGEC Engineering College, Ghaziabad. We will be delivering a lecture on the subject of the Rural Development Administration and Planning, and the topic for discussion today is the dimension and approaches to rural development, and we will also be discussing the aspect connected with the Rabindranath Tagore's approach to rural development. Many attempts have been made in defining what rural means, but if one observes the trend of definition followed, one would clearly see that rural has always been defined in relation with urban. In simple words, the rural areas has been defined as all areas which are not characterized, which are not categorized as urban areas are considered as rural area. We can infer that rural is characterized by less than 5,000 population with a population density less than 400 and more than 25% of male population engaged in agriculture activities. It is a separate task to discuss the languages used for our census, where rural is yet defined in relative terms as it has no separate existence and is still characterized by only male population occupations. We will focus here on the approaches to rural development and will as the lecture progresses. To understand the nature and the types of approaches to rural development, we must understand what rural development is all about. According to the World Bank, rural development is a strategy to improve the economic, social life of a specific group of people, the rural poor including small marginal farmers, tenants and the landless. Professor Iden of US China Institute with research and interest in comparative and development administration argues that no one now clearly understands what development is all about. In order to understand rural development, we are led to its various dimensions such as economic, political, social and human dimensions. We will be discussing a part of it in later stages. As far as the economic dimensions are concerned, related to or in context of rural development, is the capacity and opportunities for people of rural areas to participate in the benefit from the growth process. It includes measures to reduce income disparities among various sectors. Next, the important dimension, as we know, the social dimension, which encompasses overall social development, and this includes the development of specific group including poor and marginalized communities and disadvantaged section of society to reduce the gap on social indicators. It also includes the promotion of gender equality, provisions for social safety nets for vulnerable groups. Political dimensions include the provisions for low income groups, women and ethnic minorities to participate in the decision making process related to the policy and related to the political scenarios of the nation. With humanitarian approaches penetrating the academic discourses, we can also include the most important and encompassing dimension of rural development, that is the human dimension, which focuses on basically the humanitarian principles, values and thus keeping people in the center. With definition of rural and rural development clear to an extent and concepts of its dimension known, let us see how various approaches to development in context of rural areas came into effect in India. The following are the major approaches: the top-down approach, the bottom-up approach, participatory approach, integrated approach, the value chain approach, the gender sensitive approach, sustainable approach, market oriented approach and finally the sustainable livelihood approach, and we'll just have a word about each of them in the following way. The top-down approach, let's say development policies and programs are formulated by the central government or large organization and implemented in rural areas, and this approach is criticized for its lack of participation and consultation with local communities. The bottom-up approach, and this approach emphasizes community participation in the development process, and it begins with identifying local problems and needs and formulating solutions that are tailored to specific contexts of the community. And this approach is often more sustainable and effective in achieving long-term development goals. Participatory approach, this approach, as we know, aims to involve local communities in decision making, planning and implementation of development projects. It seeks to empower communities and give them greater control over their own development, and it often involves capacity building and training of local leaders and stakeholders within the village community. Integrated approach is combined multiple strategies and sectors to address the complex need of rural communities, and it may include infrastructure, development, agriculture extension services, education, health services and environmental conservation programs. Value chain approach focuses on improving the entire value chain of a particular commodity from production to marketing, and it aims to increase the incomes of the small holder farmers and rural businesses, improving efficiency, quality and access to market. Gender sensitive approach, and this approach, as the title goes, is recognizes the different roles and needs of men and women in rural communities and aims to ensure that development programs benefit both genders equally, and it often involves the targeted interventions just to improve women's access to resources, education and decision making as far as the policies are concerned, as far as the growth avenues needs to be provided to the rural population are concerned. Sustainable approach, as the name goes, emphasize mainly on importance of environmental sustainability in rural development. It aims to promote sustainable agriculture, natural resource management and renewable energy sources, while also addressing the social and economic needs of rural communities. Market oriented approach, this approach emphasizes the role of markets and private sector in rural development. It focuses on promoting market based solution, creating and enabling environment for private sector investment and entrepreneurship. Sustainable livelihood approach emphasizes on importance of enhancing the capabilities and assets of the rural people to ensure their livelihood sustainably. It focuses on building human, social, natural, physical capital, financial capital for rural communities. This, as far as the concept goes, we must try to understand this sustainable livelihood approach is a holistic perspective to address the overall needs of the people belonging to the rural sector of the economy at the first level, and at the second level it needs to relate, to address and to connect with the people in order to ensure a sustainable livelihood, looking into the future prospects, looking into the future. So this becomes an important aspect to for understanding for all. Now we'll move into an important topic as far as the approaches for rural development are concerned. Here we'll just try to discuss one topic which is known by the name of the our great, the Nobel laureate Shri Rabindranath Tagore, a renowned poet, and this approach basically known as the Tagore's approach to rural development. And Tagore, being a person, being a Nobel laureate, was one of the person who looked into the background and of the causes, which was defining the problems which was making the people unaware of their potential, what they can do for their own development, for ensuring their own sustainable life by only within the local environment they were. Rabindranath Tagore, a renowned poet, writer, social reformer, was deeply concerned about rural development of India. He believed that India's rural areas had tremendous potential, but they were being neglected due to lack of proper attention and resources. Tagore's approach to rural development was centered around empowering the people of rural area and promoting self-sufficiency. Rural development, according to him, or we can say in general perspective, should be the starting point of development in India, because India is a society with vast rural area having a large rural population. Education, employment and self-sufficiency will carry them towards advancement, and one day this rural lifestyle will merge into the integrated process of development with their own characteristic features along with their acquired modern and scientific techniques, as Shri Rabindranath Tagore used to think. And as far as this concept goes, this characteristic feature goes, is in its own zone, it's having a future ability, a futuristic view that needs to be defined, this needs to be created within the rural population, so that they try to catch up with the fast changing time and ensure a sustainable livelihood in their for their future, and looking into their contribution they can make for the society for its overall growth. The rural population in India actually provides a real picture of Indian society. A majority of rural population in India lives on agriculture and linked occupation in the rural areas. Though agriculture has been primary occupation of the rural people in India since the ancient period, the scenario is changing day by day. However, the Indian villages are economically weak. In addition, lack of infrastructure facility make their life more difficult, and naturally the villagers face a lot of problems in their daily life. During Tagore's lifetime, rural India was far more backward, so he felt it necessary to start his development programs from within the rural Bengal, and even after selecting a single village, the primary objective of Tagore's was to make the village self-sufficient in the proper sense of the primary objectives, the proper sense of the terms which would establish itself as a model village in the coming time, or coming in the later stage of development of the people and the rural society. According to him, all the potential were inherent in the social structure. Tagore thought that each and every human being possesses a strength, power, courage and capabilities, and it is only necessary to revive and reconstruct them. And beside, every society has its own reservoir of knowledge, but neither the society nor its member were conscious about it. Now, it is by way of looking into this aspect, we come to know that Shri Tagore was basically focusing on the aspect of providing the people to understand, people to think in an optimistic environment, creating an optimistic feeling among the members of the rural background, or the people belonging to rural class who were deprived of basic basic necessity things. He knew that people have the potential, but they don't know the way out. So therefore, it becomes an important the experiment, we can say, by Mr. Tagore, that that to revive the village system through the motivation of the village people within that community. So this potential power remained unused, and the people were also totally ignorant about it. Mr. Tagore felt that the educated middle class was detached from his rural population, although this population was the real basis of Indian society, and India would not be able to develop itself unless and until this section of society was properly developed, and it was only necessary to revive and reconstruct. This is the important aspect in context of providing a firm basis for the future development of the society, future development of the nation, and it will have an impact on determining the channelization of available means and resources, which will be required to put in the productive scenario, productive applications or productive mechanism, so that the people and the society can use them to the fuller extent possible. Now, what the approach was, just we'll try to go into the details now. Tagore, almost from very beginning, was a critic of agitation politics, and he probably for the first time tried to divert the course of agitation politics towards a constructive one. This is an important aspect we must try to understand, that he tried to channelize the energy of the people from the negative purposes to positive dimensions. Clear? This, in his constructive program, the greatest stress was laid on the work of rural upliftment, and his thought on rural problems gave us an integral concept of rural reconstruction, as well as about the methods on which he would rely for its realization. Accordingly, his plan was divided into two parts. The first laid down the certain basic ideals, principle and postulates for rural reconstruction, while the second part was composed of actual schemes of social welfare and community development. He is trying to just focusing on in the individual aspect, and then he is trying to motivate the individual, and then he is trying to provide a platform to the people in general capacity by way of programs and by way of policies to be implemented, to be brought up for the people, so that the people come to know how they have to move, how they are required to move in a unified manner, just to provide a platform for the growth and utilization aspect of the available means at their own village level. The Government of India, while initiating its own plan of community development in 1952, had acknowledged Rabindranath Tagore's as the forerunner of almost all its schemes. The indigenous society is one of the another context which is focused by the great Nobel laureate, the Rabindranath Tagore. The Swadeshi Samaj is a well-known essay by Tagore, which was established in 1904, and this paper was the first comprehensive statement of his social philosophy. He analyzed the causes of disintegration of Indian village life, and made concrete suggestion for its reconstruction in his article. According to him, the leader should function as the center of unity, under whose supervision a required number of subordinates should operate. Tagore was very hopeful about bringing cooperation among the people in this manner, because he was trying to address at first level the individual, and the another aspect he was trying to address the overall community by way of policies that were those were required to be framed, or those were to be framed after looking into the available things needed to put in order to provide a sustainable basis for the community and the citizens of the villages to use the available means in the positive extent possible. He felt that the people should be made conscious about their own power, which would make them confident, and he felt that the politics was something like a wall between the political leader and the masses. He tried to just make the people to be a positive link between the policy and the resource to be used, the policy makers, the politicians, and the resources to be used in a best possible way as per the need of the society. Moreover, politics used to give undue emphasis upon preparation rather than one actual necessities. Important the point is that the policies, without looking its impact, to which sector it will be impacting, and to what extent it will be leading to change the scenario, or the scenario within the community, is of no use. Therefore, it is most important that whatever the policy and programs are brought up by the people and by the government must be in accordance with the directions and the dimensions needed to provide a sustainable growth to the society and frame a sustainable environment for the society, for the future generation to be benefited. So Tagore tried to turn the political movement into an effective mechanism of nation building activities. To him, nation building was the other name of Swadeshi, and that is why to Tagore a social leader was more effective to a political leader, and Tagore was very sincerely tried to define and find out that social leader. The main thought of Tagore on rural reconstruction gave specifically two dimensions, primarily ever since the 90s of the 19th century up to the very end of his life. He remained an adult advocate of rural upliftment or uplift work. To him, this was a far more important than active politics, and secondly, his idea on rural reconstruction revealed over a period of 50 years a remarkable consistency. The first phase of the initial phase of the rural reconstruction was the East Bengal experiment, and Tagore came with direct contact with rural Bengal after he took charge of their zamindari state at East Bengal according to his father's order. This incident can be described as a landmark in his life, for it was during this period the idea of rural reconstruction came to his mind. That was the beginning of his rural reconstruction program, but even from that very moment he had a holistic vision, and he was very sincere, honest, and determined to achieve his goal even in the formative phase. His program included health, education, cottage industry, agriculture, fisheries, weaving, etc., just to provide ample of avenues, rather other than the agriculture primary activities, in the form of the other agriculture allied activities and related activities to the people. In a word, all round development of a village was his ultimate objective, which to his mind was necessary for making a self-sufficient and self-confident society that will also pave the way for the self-reliant society, and looking into the provisions of providing future benefits to the people in greater context. He introduced the experiment of tractors for cultivation, furnace for potteries and ceramics, husking machines for paddies, which proves his scientific bent of mind. Slowly he tried to just coordinate, combined, and the people, and then he tried to improve upon the technology that was outdated and new technology that needed to be brought up within the system to ensure the proper things. The rural bank, the concept, the rural bank occupies very significant place in Tagore's rural reconstruction program. While acting as a zamidar in East Bengal, he observed that one of the main reasons for rural poverty was the ruthless exploitation by zamidars and the middlemen and the money lenders. The only way he thought he rescue the villagers was to lend money at the rate of lower interest. With this objective, Tagore established Pratisar Bank in 1905, although it was not registered yet. The main capital was accumulated by borrowing from some of his friends and some rich persons of the locality. This was possible for when Tagore won the Nobel Prize in 1930, and he deposited the money which was more than 1 lakh in his bank, in this bank. The poor peasant could take loan from this fund, and the Sri Niketan school, later Vishwa Bharati, received the interest money as long as the bank was there. Thus the money lenders were forced to wipe up their business from that area, and this bank existed for nearly a period of 30 years. Sri Niketan, the institution of Sri Niketan was not an isolated experiment, but an integral part of Tagore's total educational and reconstruction work. At the same time, Sri Niketan was certainly a product of his restlessness to do something for poverty-stricken rural India. The strategy of Sri Niketan proves the sincerity, thoughtfulness of Tagore about the total scheme. He could very correctly realize the first step was he could very clearly realize the first step was not to abstractly jump in the villages, but to go slow in order to fully realize the nature, the extent of the major problems of the village people, to gain their confidence through some very urgent welfare work for them. Unless and until the social work would acquire the faith of the villagers, no amount of endeavors to improve their condition and quality of life through their own effort would bear any fruit. Tagore and Almhirst started giving shape to the complete scheme of rural reconstruction. In this process, health received the first priority in social welfare action, which intended to carry out the anti-malaria schemes from preventive and curative angles. The village people were trained for cleaning the bushes and jungles and filling the pools of stagnant water with earth to prevent mosquitoes from breeding, and as the curative measure, distribution of medicine for malarian fever among villagers through door-to-door supply and dispensary at Sri Niketan, and in some villages organized by the Sri Niketan team of functionaries. The next step of work undertaken by the village people with the active assistance of the team included the road repairing, building of culverts, and opening and repairing of drains for easy flow of water within the villages and crop field, and that this implies that hitting the real cause of the health related problem the public faced. A complete plan of rural reconstruction, experiment with seed, manures, rotation of crops, cattle and poultry farming was drawn up by 1928. Appraisal of the village needs was estimated by methods of rural survey in 1923. As well, developed cooperative society was charged with the responsibility of promoting programs related to health, education, agriculture and rural industry. The society maintained a grain bank, played an arbiter in local disputes, and carried on educational propaganda through many attractive methods. Tagore was very conscious about environmental protection, and his rural reconstruction program was eco-friendly. He loved nature and could feel the worth of it. So, he was keen to frame up the program for development of the development in consonance with nature. He tried to make his Sriniketan experiment a basically complete one. So he was conscious about including every aspect of reconstruction in his program, and the organization of Shiksha Shastra, Lok Shiksha Samsad and Shiksha Charcha and Bharati Balka prove his holistic concept in this context. He sought to unite the ideals of old with the Western scientific genius. Rural industries, he felt it necessary to revitalize the descendants of cottage industry and to train the local artisans and village youth so that they could make use of new innovation. With this idea, he set up Shilpa Bhavan at Shantiniketan. He did not only concentrate on making villages self-sufficient, but also tried to encourage the villagers to make objects of beauty, utility for the luxury demand, for distance market, so that the wealth could flow into the village treasury. The cottage industry training program was undertaken by his initiative. He was also not against the application of the power and introduction of machines for increasing efficiency of production. It was his endeavor to build a balanced industrial economy by way of introducing the techniques and by way of using the programs so that the available resources could be used in the productive dimensions. Institute of Rural Reconstruction started operating through two broad divisions of work. Its headquarters was situated at Sriniketan, and it maintained a number of demonstrations and service units concerning agriculture, animal husbandry, cottage industry, health, education, village organization, and each of these sections also organized a replica of its service unit at the village level. Through the initiative of the people of the area and led by the village workers of the institute. The center thus maintained a demonstration of farm, a dairy and poultry unit, an outdoor clinic, a department of cottage industry, a village school, and a number of other institutions at Sriniketan. The organization manifested itself in three different types of activities, namely research, extension, and education. The institute also defined in its turn the new education by its first hand knowledge about the village problems, and this was possible by a well defined administrative network by which the distant village were connected with the headquarters in the matter needed and services for the village community. Rural library was an essential part of the rural reconstruction program of Tagore, and utility of library has always been recognized by Tagore. So from the very beginning there was a central library for learning and research, and another one local library to serve local people, to grow interest for reading and learning among them. The most unique feature of this library system was the introduction of circulating library in 1925, and it was actually a mobile library where one village worker used to give door to door service by carrying books in a bag, and initially it was done by walking, although later cycle was being used for this purpose. Rural library service are one of the important services of rural extension center, through which literacy movement were carried to out in the villages and different parts of the villages. Apart from literacy activity, another objective of this program was to develop a rural library as information and cultural center of the villages. The Tagore ideas of rural reconstruction program was no doubt a path-breaking one. Although it created much debate, criticisms from every corner of the contemporary society, but Tagore was firm, for he had a very strong logic behind his concept, and fortunately he could find out his proper associates in his unique venture. He was sincere, honest, thoughtful about a bit of utopia. Yet Tagore's model may be accepted as a micro model to be followed all over the society of India, but the difficulty is to find out the proper leader upon whom the success of such projects depend exclusively. Such a program, if implemented and presented even partially, would benefit the society. Any person going to activate this program, this type of program, should consult the scheme of Tagore, and with as a pioneering on which throws light in the field of alternative, other development and emphasis on human development, which is one of the major concept to be addressed by the policymakers as far as the rural development avenues to be defined are concerned. Actually, Mr. Tagore tried to perceive and analyze the problem from a holistic perspective. Here the renowned poet proves himself to be successful social thinker as well as an activist in this sphere. Here he is unique, original and relevant to the society and its people, since he tried to create a platform and try to create a channel by which the people can channelize and use their inherent potential just to provide a boost for themselves and develop and growth for the society. Tagore also believed that rural development should be based on self-sufficiency. He advocated for the creation of small-scale industry in rural areas that would provide employment and income to the local people, and these industries would be based on local resources, skills, and would help to reduce dependence on the house sources. And the final important aspect of Tagore's approach to rural development was the promotion of traditional knowledge and practices. He believed that rural people had a wealth of knowledge and skill that were being ignored in the rush towards the modernization. Tagore emphasized the need to value and preserve these traditional practices and to integrate them with modern techniques. In this summary, at last, we just look into what the final approach of Tagore was. The Tagore approach to the rural development was focused on education, self-sufficiency, and the promotion of traditional knowledge and practice, as we have just discussed. He believed that these factors were crucial for the sustainable development of rural areas and the empowerment of rural people as well. His ideas continue to be relevant today as we strive to find sustainable solution to the challenges faced by rural community around the world. Thank you.